the Southern Hellenist, and I am back with another. Okay, so if anybody wants to chime in during this about Hecate and Neo-Pagans, uh, we're happy to. I was actually on a dialogue with someone. It was really cool, and I really liked answering his questions. I didn't type it in; I just spoke it, which was a lot better than typing it in because chemical errors. Um, yeah. Yeah. So I got two things. I was supposed to get my Asclepius and Artemis in today. Unfortunately, my brother was out with a friend. Yes, a friend. Girl who is his friend, as also, his coworker, and she was driving him around to different places, and he had pictures of an apartment. This is only. I'm praying to the gods that we get. I'm praying to the gods that we get even in May, and they have to make sure that out completely and that they've taken their stuff with them. And when you're a sick, when you were a, I got my. Is she beautiful? So I got Hygiena. So, and I got of Demeter, and I know and this is Monster Inc. Okay, so this was 1995. 1995. It's a pretty thick book, and I'm kind of leery about buying books that are written by this book. There was one page that was on the citations. What the heck that author of this book was talking about. So I really liked the idea that she put citations in it. She put the. So I'm currently on chapter correctly. It's called this. Give a name to the experience. Oh. Etrian paganism, and apparently she's a soul worshiper of the goddess Demeter. It's interesting was she was talking about how like Stephanie and none of them mention rape, or you can't there's no image of it, but it's interesting. So yeah, so I so far I'm pretty happy with the book, and it definitely I'm definitely glad that she included citations and things when she wrote the book. All right, so now that we're on the topic of a neo-pagan, let's talk about the goddess Hecate and about neo-pagans. Okay, so when I first started Hellenism, many moons ago, um, I I had come through the lens of Wicca, and don't get me wrong, I think Wicca is a beautiful religion. I know some people might disagree with that, but I think it's a beautiful religion. I encountered a lot of really great Wiccans in my when I was involved in Wicca in my teens and early adulthood. So I encountered a lot of really great Wiccans who, they have great moral compass, and they've raised great families and all this type of stuff. And so, and I met them before their families. So, yeah, so they probably have families. So, so I knew about the goddess Hecate. I called her Hecate, but I guess it doesn't matter these days what you call her, as long as you don't call her whatever. But so I knew about her. There was actually a book called "To Stir a Magic Cauldron" by Silver Ravenwolf, And she lists Hecate as one of the goddesses under the Greeks, not the Romans, but the Greeks. And the only problem was she did not hardly put much information about Hecate, just this is her domain and all that jazz. So that's what was with that. So when I was introduced to Hellenism, I encountered the goddess Hecate. And I was on a forum by an author called Timothy J. Alexander. And ouch. And so he went and there was a discussion board about discussion. I forgot what the title of the discussion thing was. Oh yeah, but anyways, yeah. So I don't know what it was about, what the title of it was about, but you had a Wiccan that actually got on there. She got approved to join the forum, and so she was trying to explain her position as far as why she um, works with Hecate instead of venerating and worshiping Hecate like she had been in ancient times. And I forgot all that she said, people, because that was like, oh, how long ago was that? Oh my lord, I can't even remember. It was, I know it was over 10 years ago. You gotta pardon me how like I'm tired. This coronavirus, not meaning to stop this topic, but this coronavirus, it is literally wiping me out. I'm not sick or anything, but I work food and I'm considered an essential employee. And this dang fucking virus is just oh man, I'm thinking about going to bed when I'm done with this video. So anyways, so I look like this, it's because I'm dead tired. And I only worked maybe like 2.5 hours, but it's the stress, it's how everything is. And so back to the topic. So anyways, so she was busy trying to explain why she works with the deities, works with Hecate, and we were basically trying to explain to her that, look, how you do your thing is your thing, but how we do our thing is how we do our thing. So when we have now I have a shrine to Hecate. You guys saw it, like I think it was like 3 weeks ago, something like that, where I call it my shrine and not my altar. And the reason I call it my shrine is I 99.9% of the time, it is mainly used for devotional work. It's mainly used for work or nothing like that. I keep a bottle of oil, but that's not ritual work. That's more like just keeping a bottle of oil somewhere you can grab it. So my shrine is specifically for the veneration of Hecate as well as the Greek god Hermes. So, and of course, all my shrines are for the veneration and honoring of the. It was really kind of annoying to. I mean, I didn't get annoyed at first, but as you're trying to explain this to someone who doesn't want to understand why we do what we do, it was starting to get really annoying. Where Timothy actually got on there and actually about how she's supposed to be honored and can you work with her, minus honoring her, and all that type of stuff. So one of my biggest gripes, okay, Hecate's been co-opted by the Neo-Pagans, therefore, 2 people joined. Thanks. It's been co-opted by the Neo-Pagans, and so therefore, we're not going to venerate Hecate because she's now a Neo-Pagan goddess. First and foremost, from my time in Wicca, I want to make this really clear. There is no such thing as a Wiccan goddess or Wiccan god. There's actually a website it's a path called Greco-Roman Wicca, and the author specifically says Wicca doesn't have a pantheon of gods and goddesses. That's why they will borrow deities from other cultures and incorporate them into their practice. Um, so I don't spit on Wiccans. I don't attack them for, oh, you're committing hubris when you do magic and all this type of stuff. Because I believe everybody has the right to practice whatever they want, and that's why we live in America, and that's why we have freedom of religion and all that. But it really aggravates me that there are Hellenists out there, just like there's Hellenists that actually believe that you have to be Greek to venerate the Greek gods. There are Hellenists out there that absolutely refuse to honor Hecate, even though traditionally she is a household deity. So it's a wall plaque. And I actually put her on there so that she would protect the window, because I couldn't put her at the exit slash entrance to our apartment because my mother did not support you know idols. So yeah, so it wasn't, we weren't saying this to her to be this mean person or mean people. We were just saying, hey, look, traditionally this is how she's viewed and all that. So so getting to why is she venerated by Neo-Pagans? Well, Hecate is this, at least to me, is this mysterious goddess. She's, her Roman form. She has three faces. Her Greek, there's only one Greek statue, as far as I know. If anybody can correct me, I would appreciate it. There is only one Greek statue of her as a maiden with two torches, and that's how there was a war between. There was a war between. It was the giants, and Gaia had these giants that were basically the opposite of whatever Olympian or whatever deity had allied themselves with Zeus and his siblings. So Hecate, because she had sided with the Olympians, she had a giant that was what I would call the anti-Hecate. And this giant was, of course, defeated. Um, I know there's a myth where Dionysus gets involved. He's still a demigod, and I'm trying to remember the whole thing. I really can't right now because um, but I think it was a combination of a god and him that enabled the giants to be defeated. I just don't. I have to look it up. Um, so the vase, or the vessel that she's depicted on, has her burning, I think, the eyes of the giant that represents basically her double, or her enemy. Remember, anti-Hecate, then you had anti-Zeus, anti-Hera, anti-Poseidon, anti-Hermes, anti-Ares, anti-Aphrodite, anti-Artemis, anti-Athena. The only giant that was not an anti of Dionysos, let me rephrase that. The reason that Dionysos did not have a giant that represented him is because he wasn't a god. So yeah, so Gaia, despite the fact is that we call upon her, um, and she's sometimes mentioned in rituals and stuff. I really kind of have this problem with venerating her. That's just my own personal opinion. I'd rather prefer to venerate Demeter than Gaia, but that's just my own personal opinion. Um, so, anyways, so when you got, pardon me again. I don't mean to repeat myself, but I'm dead tired. So yeah. So when neo-pagans look at, especially Wiccans, look at these different gods and goddesses, they're really drawn to Hecate. I've been here. I was part of a Hecate group on a. You can tell I can't talk right now, on a pagan space, and say it's a like a social media thing. and almost every single one of the neo-pagans on there have said that Hecate is a crone goddess. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, do these people even read Greek mythology? Do they even read it? And I just really sat there and be like, I'm a Hellenic polytheist, and I have no problem with people's opinion about the gods, but can we please keep the gods the way they're depicted in mythology? And of course, people will say, well, you're stuffing them in the past, and you are not allowing them to be more modern and all that type of stuff, and whatever excuse they bring up. No, I'm not stuffing them in the past. As a Hellenic polytheist, I bring the gods from the past into the present, but I keep them. The statues I have little tiny statues of Demeter and of Hermes and of Ares and all that. None of the statues that I have depict the gods as being old. And if you read the mythology, it will say that traditionally Hecate is depicted as a maiden and not as a crone. Though they did notice that modern neo-pagans do view her as a crone. Just like Hades is hated by neo-pagans because he supposedly raped Persephone. Though there is debate on that. There are scholars from that time that never mentioned the word rape, though one did, but that's just one. But so when it comes to neo-pagans, they're very hard-headed when it comes to the accurate depiction of Hecate. And even if in all honesty, even if I was a Hellenistic Wiccan or a Greco-Roman Wiccan, I would not view Hecate as a crone. I would view her historically as a maiden. I would definitely Demeter not as a old hag, but more of like the mourning woman. I mean, is that she basically brought death to people. So it's kind of interesting, if you look at it that way. But definitely Demeter in the stage of can't find my daughter, where's my daughter at, and then she wears black to mourn, and all that type of stuff. And then as she's walking, things are dying around her. So, and of course, people die as well because they're not able to eat. And so, kind of represents that, in my opinion, that female figure of death, because withdrawn her fertility. So she's kind of like the ground is infertile. Just like when it's through menopause, she becomes infertile. She steps into that last stage of life. And that is, you see it in front of you. In front of me, I saw my mother going from this fertile woman who could give birth to a woman who was barren, who could not give birth because of one, which I will be going through probably in about 15 years. So that is how I definitely look at that. When you have neo-pagans that come on to forums and groups, and they're, and they jump onto a topic, they literally will run the topic into the ground. Literally, they will beat the horse until it's dead, and then it will resurrect the horse and kill it. So Ugh, I'm not getting my words out right now. So during the course of this of that discussion of that particular thread, you had Hellenics that got on there and said that because Hecate has co-opted, and they use the word co-opt, by Neo-Pagans, I do not have Hecate on my shrine. I do not acknowledge yada blah 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 blah. And it also runs into another I like to talk about is why. Okay, yes, she has been adopted Wiccans and everything. So why would you use that as a reasoning for not giving her and the same answer they give that has nothing to do with the question I give. The answer they give is the same as the day before I asked the question, is because she's been co-opted by the Neo-Pagans. Um, so yeah, so you um, that attitude goes, especially like when we talk about like the Eleusinian mysteries or like the lesser mysteries, where or like the Eleusinian temple complex. That's what I call it, where you had like the Plutorian cave, which was later on made into the temple of Athena and Poseidon. At least that's what I read. And then you have Hecate's temple, and then you have Demeter's. I think Persephone had one. I don't know. Um, and so Hecate's temple was there, and it was important that it was there because Hecate played an important role in the whole thing about where does the idea that she is a crone come from? Well, I don't believe for one second that neo-pagans dream of her as a crone and all that type of jazz. It comes from their reading of neo-pagan books and of other neo-pagan books and more neo-pagan books, and the idea that she's a crone gets leached into their heads, and they will go on the computer and they will say, oh, I had this vision of Hecate as a crone, and I kind of asked them, okay, how many books did you read where she was mentioned this? And they kind of like, uh, what do you mean? I'm like, did you read books about her before you had the dream, or did you not read books about her and you had the dream? And 9 out of 10, they will tell me, yeah, they read a bunch of books about her and she was depicted as a crone. Now, once again, where does this come from? Okay, so I actually asked that question to someone who's not a Hellenic polytheist. He's a Wiccan, but he does a lot of reading on, of the gods and goddesses of ancient Greece and Rome, and so he understands a lot about it. And not once did he ever say that Hecate is a crone goddess. He said Hecate is a maiden goddess, but she had priestesses and all that jazz. So he mentioned something about Aleister Crowley was the one that turned her into a crone. Um, so, all right. So I'm going to kind of look this up because, um, okay, okay, okay. So, let me see here. Okay, so let me see here. All right. So, okay. So it says the most prominent ancient triple goddess was Diana, who was equated with the Greek Hecate. Um, so it's Diana the Huntress, Diana the Moon, and Diana of the Underworld. I have no idea where that comes from. I guess because is equated with Hecate. Um, Additional example of the goddess Hecate views a triple goddess associated with witchcraft include Lucan's Tale of the Witches, written in the 1st century BCE. Um, it says here in Lucan's work, the witches speak of Persephone, who is the third and lowest aspect of our goddess Hecate. Now, the example is found in Olive's Metamorphosis, in which Jason swears an oath to the witch Medea, saying that he would be true by the sacred rites of the threefold goddess. Okay. See. Okay. Okay. So, um, okay. Then it says here on Hecate'sCauldron.org, it'll pop up, that, um, okay, so it says here, Hecate, crone goddess, even though she is mostly known as the crone, today she is seen as Hecate the maiden, Hecate the mother, and Hecate the crone. So today, because in ancient times there was no such thing as a crone, in fact, ancient times, sometimes the maiden aspect melded into the mother aspect. Ancient times, Hecate was seen as a dark goddess. In fact, maiden mother crone never came along until Robert Graves' White Goddess. Okay, so yes, so she's only, to me, she's only considered a triple goddess um, because of her three aspects that Zeus handed to her. Um, let's see. Okay. So let's see, it pops up. Okay. Says here, when did she become a crone goddess? Okay. Okay, this is from Patheos. Okay. So, I hate when they damn freaking do this ad blocker stuff. Like, seriously. Alright. Okay. 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 So here is also worth considering that defacing or so let me go above. In the article I draw on articles and books I've written in the past, as well as lecture notes, in an attempt to clarify some of the key issues with the attribution of the title crone to the triple-formed goddess Hecate. Profanation would be a strong word, but having witnessed the shock and reaction of devotees who have dedicated many years of their lives to study and work of her mysteries when they encounter the concept of Hecate being depicted as anything less than perfect, I thought inapt. Not only considering Hecate as a crone, but a crone as part of the maiden mother crone construct other goddesses in the role of maiden and mother. Here is also worth considering that defacing or describing gods as being less than perfect was often a technique employed by conquering religions in order to belittle and defame the older and more established religions in order to gain control over them. Um, see here. Okay. Okay. Among some traditions of in paganism, even though it is contracted by the many hundreds of years of evidence. First mention I have found to Hecate being described specifically in a way that fits the archetype of crone is in the work of controversial magician and occult writer Aleister Crowley. He wrote a book called Night Child in 1970. It published it in 1929. So it says here he wrote, and thirdly is she is Hecate and a thing altogether, hell, barren, hideous, and malice, the queen of death and evil witchcraft. Hecate is the crone, the woman past all hope of motherhood, her soul black with envy and hatred of happier mortals. Hecate features in other works by Crowley too. 10 years later, Crowley had hinted at this perception of Hecate in his poem Morpheus, published in volume 3 of his collected works. Okay. Like a chemical contrast, in the ancient world, Hecate is single form and sometimes in her later triple form. Where depictions survive of the triple form, it depicts the goddess as three identical women of the same age standing back to back and holding different tools, which symbolize the mysteries associated with Hecate and usually included her torches, but also daggers, keys, cords, and other items. Hecate is a goddess who has for thousands of years been associated with magic, as she is capable of manifesting in many forms. Okay, so I was right. So the guy was right. It was actually Aleister Crowley that continued that idea that she is a goddess, she's a crone goddess, but in fact the article clearly states that the historical sources say that she's a maiden goddess. So when you go and you encounter Hellenics to say, she's been co-opted, so that's why I'm going to honor her. And you have, no, she's not. She actually is a maiden goddess, and the Neo-Pagans, especially the Wiccans, on what is considered the proper form of Hecate. And because you're not doing it to ensure that. But the article never does say when she's like, who actually first depicted her as a crone. Okay, so it says here, this unfortunately caused this idea would be very understood in devotees before the 20th century. But if Hecate is considered within the triad of goddess celebrated in the Eleusinian mysteries, more often equate Persephone as the role of the maiden, Demeter, and Demeter. Hecate within the triad. However, she would be capable of sending spirits to those calling on her today. Form there, along with what I originally said about Demeter being, if you want to stick goddesses into the maiden mother concept, definitely Hecate would be the maiden, maiden. Persephone would be the mother, and Demeter would be the crone. Mainly because Demeter caused the deaths of talk about her or argue about or whatever, but I think that as long as we have these debates between, the Hellenic, my Hecate statue is her triplet form, but I view, since all three women are literally the same age, I see it as, as short and everything. I'm heading off to bed. I am absolutely exhausted. But I will try to do tomorrow's ritual. If you do not get a video tomorrow, it means I didn't do it. Angel Tasha UK has said that basically that I should not be doing rituals when I'm dead tired, and I do agree with her on that. I did finally get around to doing my Poseidon and Theseus ritual. I'm on Eros, the Muses, and Rhea. I'm having a hard time finding Homer hymns or all that type of stuff to them. So I don't know. I may just go ahead and just make up my own hymn. But anyways, I'll let you guys go. Hope you guys have a great day and